Aromatic cocktail bitters, the kind you don't sip but add in dashes to enliven a drink, were an essential ingredient in classic cocktails and are now back and bigger than ever. Just as restaurant menus herald the local farmer who grew the heirloom carrots featured in that night's special, cocktail menus increasingly single out house-made bitters and those made by artisanal producers. And indeed, seeking out the best bitters can become as much of an obsession as finding the freshest locally sourced ingredients. The same DIY ethos that made growing tomatoes on your apartment's rooftop, making your own seasonal preserves, curing charcuterie on your fire escape, and all sorts of other hands-on kitchen projects so popular over the past 5 or so years has rolled out to bars. Today, listing house-made bitters on the menu and displaying dozens of homemade tinctures is a benchmark for most serious bar programs. Once I've sized up a joint, I'll ask the bartender, "Do you make your own bitters?" More often than not, the answer is yes. Orange, grapefruit, coffee, barley, cherry vanilla, plum, rhubarb, rosemary, and lavender, to name just a few. Asking that simple question makes me feel connected to an ongoing conversation about the history of the American cocktail. And it's not just because the bartender is decked out in his 19th century best and most likely sporting a Civil War-era beard or artfully waxed mustache. It's because that simple old-fashioned, the one made with rye, simple syrup, bitters, and a lemon twist, is practically what you would be holding in your hand if you walked into a bar in the late 1800s and Jerry Thomas served you himself. In 2009, I wrote a short piece on homemade bitters for Seattle Met magazine. I quickly geeked out on the topic, and sharing my enthusiasm with so many bartenders who were also on the bitters trail only increased my obsession. At the bar Spur in Seattle, where David Nelson was bartending when I wrote the piece, bartenders, like ball players, move around to other teams all the time, there were nearly 24 squat glass bottles lining the bar, each filled with one of Nelson's homemade bitters and tinctures. When David said, it would be pretty ingenious if someone wrote a book on bitters, his words stuck with me, and I shared David's sentiment with my friend A.J. Rathbun, who writes a new cocktail book nearly every year. He smiled and said, "Don't look at me. That's all you, my friend."